Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Time for Emerging Markets, Doers Within Emerging Markets. This is Jacob, the host of this podcast, and I'm really humbled and grateful to have with me Cicy, the Chief Human Resource Officer at BrainCo Tech, a life coach and a student of the Yangming Philosophy Academy. Cicy, welcome to the podcast, and it's great having you. How are you today?
Thank you. It's a great pleasure being here.
It's an honor to have you, and I'm really excited on the conversation we're going to have today. And let's just get into it. So,
Sure.
So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So my name is Cicy. I go with Cicy, but my name in Chinese is Shengnan. I grew up in China, Beijing, and spent my the first 20 years of my life growing up and studying in Beijing. I came to Boston about 5 years ago for graduate studies. I went to the Harvard Grad School of Education, did a lot of studies and research there, also encountered this amazing engineers and scientist team working on brain science and brain computer interface. So as an art student with education master background without any technology background, I joined the team of BrainCo, a Harvard incubated startup company, as a educational product manager. So I've been in BrainCo for a few years and recently had a transition into the human development field of the company. So I'm a chief human resource manager now. Also on the side, I'm also a certified life coach. I coach a lot of young professionals and startup entrepreneurs to align their career goal with their life purpose so that they feel more motivated in life. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much for just giving us an elaboration of that. And for all of you guys listening out there, if you really want someone to help you align your education experience with your life purpose, I think Cicy is someone that you can reach out to as well. Based on what she has been doing so far, and we're gonna get more into it as we get down into this episode. So just to take us a step back before we talk about the Harvard Graduate School of Education and why you applied there and how you got into BrainCo, I would just like to ask a little bit, like, where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in the United States or back in China?
I grew up in Beijing. It's the capital of China. And it's a pretty traditional environment to grow up. And I have a typical 3-people family, my parents and I, because we have this one-child policy, obviously. I've just always been in China, in Beijing.
Very cool. And what was it like growing up in Beijing? Was it, did you get a sense of like the metropolitan sense of it, or was it like, how was it? Did you travel to other places in China?
Definitely very metropolitan. There are 30 million people there. In the city.
That's a lot. And just going now into it, I mean, just pre-Harvard Graduate School of Education, where did you study before you applied to Harvard?
So I did my college education in Beijing as a translation and interpretation major. So I studied English translation back in college, also learned Spanish as my second foreign language. I would say if anyone knows the Gaokao system of China, you will know that it is a very fierce competition where 18-year-olds go through this million people exam where they rank you from top 1 to the bottom 1, and they put you into different universities according to your ranking. If you have 1 point difference, it's going to be a lot of difference. So for me, my dream, so I went through that Gaokao process in China, and my dream university was Peking University, the top one of China. But I was super nervous on the day of Gaokao, and I was 3 points left out of 750. So my dream was broken, and I didn't get into to Peking University. I went to this this university called Beijing International Studies University, which I'm deeply grateful for. And went on an amazing journey in college. And it's just not the way that I imagined college would be, but I love it so much because I had the opportunity to stay out of campus for a big chunk of my college life. I think I spent 70% of my time outside of the school to learn and to grow, to develop my skills in all different fields, engaging in on-campus and off-campus activities. Yeah, so very grateful for that opportunity.
Sounds like everything worked out, and you end up at Harvard, so I guess
Not bad.
it's not bad. So going to that, how can you just give? I think most people here. So the demographics of the podcast, majority of the speakers are in the early 20s to the late 30s, and sometimes I'm guessing just from my inclination, my sense of inclination, most of them are still trying to apply for grad school. Their life, and I think you're a kind of an ideal guest on the podcast, kind of help give a sense of what people should apply for and all that.
Yeah.
So, like, why did you apply to Harvard, and why the Harvard Graduate School of Education?
That's a great question, because I always ask people why about their choice as well. When I was in college, I actually before college, when I failed my Gaokao exam, what I realized was we spent so many years preparing for this once in a lifetime exam, and it seemed like it's gonna make a decision for us about our life directions. So people with that system, people become exam machines. They know a lot of formulas and functions and know how to solve mathematical and physical problems, physics problems, but they don't really challenge why and how things work in their way. And I was one of them. I was so good at doing the mathematic challenges, but when I faced life challenges, I was so weak. I don't have the mechanism to cope with anything. So a big desire rised up from my heart. What if we can provide another alternative way to grow up to Chinese kids, so that apart from the Gaokao system, they can have a more all-rounded and holistic way of growing up. So that's why I started a leadership development organization with two of my friends. We use PBL, project-based learning, to encourage high school kids and college students to team up, so that they can work on a social issue together, find a problem to solve, make a project plan, and find a team to make it happen. It's a very entrepreneurial organization where we encourage high school and college students to do entrepreneurship projects. And that was already actually 8 years ago. Back then, PBL or entrepreneurship, those are not even concepts in the world. But we were already doing those, and the organization is still there now, making bigger impact. So that experience really inspired me to have a career in education, especially the out of school education that inspire people to think out of the box and to care about their community. So I decided to apply to Harvard Graduate School of Education to study to actually design a mechanism for the public sector, private sector, and the civil society to work together to encourage that alternative education to happen. So in short, I just wanted to study how the society as a system can encourage education to be more free and diverse. So yeah, I just applied and applied the 2 years. The first year I didn't get in, and the second year I got in. And I reflecting on that, the main difference, like the different strategy I used that got me in was actually changing the perspective from how good I am to what is the future I am creating. When I was only focusing on showcasing I'm a great student, I'm best on TOEFL, GRE, and I've done this and that, people don't care that much, right? Because you have so many great students. But in the second year when I applied, my strategy was I didn't talk about anything about the past. I only focused on the future, what I want to do and what support I need from Harvard. So I got in with that. That will be a piece of advice number one for anyone who's going to grad school. Really, what represent you is not your past, but your future and what you want to do.
I'm even inspired by that. That's powerful. And I like the fact that you started from you applying yourself with your two friends to start a program that can really change the course of how people think about education and social impact. And most importantly, working with the youth to actually kind of build a new way of thinking, right? And them to learn to do something. That's pretty amazing. That's very commendable for you to do that. So how do people get to know the program? Is it on your website?
Yes. We do have an international website called youthpowerinchina.org. The organization is called YouthPower. We have partnered with the Chinese Ministry of Education to be present in 300 schools all around the country, in 23 cities. So it's been developing pretty fast. Although we don't have even one single employee, everybody is volunteer. And we rotate the student leadership every year. So everybody in the leadership team is a student, but there is a professional board team to monitor the development of the organization.
So powerful. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's kind of a storyline is, especially, just how great your organization has been. I think just from a personal perspective, when you mentioned you applied the second time, and talking about the future is really critical. So I think for all the listeners out there, you have to change your perspective of, talk about the future rather than the past. And I really like that you mentioned that. Just want to iterate that. So in this journey, let me say from the time, just before you applied to Harvard grad school, who are the people that actually help, because that was 8 years ago, right? Who are the people that actually give you a sense of how to innovate or how to be an entrepreneur? Maybe those words didn't exist, but you have people along the way that guided you and gave you.
Yeah. I'd say the idea and the motivation to build on an entrepreneurial project it had to be from within my heart. So it was totally from my heart, but along the way, I couldn't have done so much without the help from a lot of people, including the few incubator programs I've been through. There's the Do School in Germany, where I went for 3 months to fully bake this nonprofit organization into a social enterprise. So the Do School in Germany is very helpful. I'm gonna do a big plug-in for them here.
That's awesome.
It's literally the Do School, the school for the doers. And then that was in 2016, and the next year, YouthPower successfully transitioned into a social business because of the Do School's help. But we were exploring this variety of fundraising options. And that's when I came across Watson Institute in Colorado. They are also a social entrepreneurship incubator kind of university. And I went there for another half a year to learn the diverse way of fundraising and sort of the B Corp and more American style social enterprise. And they are very helpful too. And a lot of the mentors I met there, I'm still in touch with them. One of my mentors at Watson Institute, he even went to my wedding in Beijing as a, what do you call it, officiator?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a very gentle and wise Indian American gentleman, angel investor of the Rocky Mountain Investor Club. So yeah, big shout to the Do School and Watson Institute. I'm grateful that there are so many of them on the society that focus on impact rather than financial return. So any student entrepreneur who want to have financial or resource help should definitely look for this kind of incubator opportunities.